A tea my father's wedding. He called me a disgrace for not toasting his new wife. Little did he know, I held the last letter from my mother that would turn the tables. Shocking consequences unfold. The champagne glass trembled in my hand as I watched my father kiss his new bride. 28 years of memories crashed through my mind like a tidal wave, but the one that hit hardest was my mother's final words. Promise me you'll make things right, Deborah. I'm a forensic investigator by trade. I analyze evidence, uncover truths, and help deliver justice. But nothing in my career prepared me for the storm I was about to unleash at my father's wedding reception. A toast to the happy couple. Pierce, my father's business partner, raised his glass. The crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the ballroom as 200 guests lifted their champagne in unison. I kept mine firmly on the table. Deborah. My father's voice carried that familiar warning tone. Stand up, sweetheart. Show some respect. I met his gaze across the table. Kenneth, my father, looked distinguished in his tailored tuxedo, his silver hair perfectly styled. To everyone else, he was the picture of success. Wealthy businessman, philanthropist, devoted family man, if only they knew. I said, stand up. His smile remained fixed, but his eyes hardened. I can't, Dad. The words came out barely above a whisper. Rosalind, his new wife, touched his arm. Kenneth, it's okay. No, it's not okay. He stood, commanding the room's attention. My daughter seems to have forgotten her manners. Perhaps she'd like to explain to our guests why she's choosing to disrespect her father on his wedding day. The silence that followed was deafening. I felt every eye in the room turn to me, including those of Anne, Rosalind's cousin, who watched the scene unfold with unusual intensity. I'm not disrespecting anyone, I said, my voice stronger now. I'm honoring a promise, a promise. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. To whom? To Mom. The color drained from his face. Rosalind's perfectly manicured hand flew to her throat, and Pierce suddenly became very interested in his champagne. Your mother has been gone for 2 years. My father said through clenched teeth. This behavior is beneath you, Deborah. You're making a scene. I stood slowly, smoothing my burgundy bridesmaid dress. You're right, Dad, I am making a scene. But trust me, this is nothing compared to what's coming. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My father's face turned an alarming shade of red. You're a disgrace, he spat. Leave, now. Gladly. I grabbed my clutch and headed for the exit, but not before catching Anne's subtle nod in my direction. In the hotel corridor, I heard quick footsteps behind me. Deborah, wait. It was Yesenia, my mother's oldest friend. She caught up to me, her dark eyes full of concern. Are you okay, mi amor? I pulled my mother's letter from my clutch. The one she'd written on her deathbed. The one that would destroy my father's carefully constructed world. I'm fine. Actually, I'm better than fine. Remember what Mom always said about karma? Yesenia's eyes widened as she recognized the envelope. She comes when she's ready. Well, I tucked the letter away safely. Karma's about to make one hell of an entrance. Be careful, Deborah. Your father has it coming. I squeezed her hand. Trust me, this is just the beginning. As I walked toward the elevator, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Meet me at the hotel bar in 10 minutes. We need to talk. Anne. I smiled, remembering the knowing look she'd given me during the toast. Maybe I wasn't as alone in this as I thought. In the elevator mirror, I studied my reflection. I had my mother's features, the same dark hair, olive skin, and determined set to my jaw, the same fire in my eyes that refused to be extinguished. I'm doing this for you, Mom, I whispered to my reflection. He thought he could bury the truth with you, but he was wrong. So wrong. The elevator doors opened to the lobby, and I headed toward the bar. My heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown. In my clutch, the letters seemed to pulse with energy. 6 pages of truth that would shatter my father's perfect new life. Let him call me a disgrace. Let him try to silence me. But Mom taught me that some promises are sacred and some truths refuse to stay buried. As I pushed open the heavy wooden doors to the bar, I spotted Anne already waiting in a corner booth, 2 martinis on the table. The real show was about to begin. And this time, I wouldn't be the one leaving in disgrace. That honor belonged to my father, and his time was running out. I straightened my spine and walked toward Anne's table, each step bringing me closer to the revenge my mother deserved. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and I was more than happy to give her a push in the right direction. Your mother knew, didn't she? Anne slid one of the martinis toward me as I sat down. About Kenneth's dealings with Pierce, I took a careful sip studying her face. Why don't you tell me what you know first? Fair enough? Anne leaned forward, her voice dropping. 3 months ago, I was working late at the investment firm. I handle accounts for some of Rosalind's clients. I overheard Pierce and your father discussing some creative accounting methods. The memory of my mother's last days crashed over me like a wave. I was sitting by her hospital bed, holding her trembling hand as she whispered, "The safe in his office. There's proof." "Deborah." Anne's voice pulled me back. "Sorry. It's just, I pulled out Mom's letter. 2 years ago, my mother called me to her hospital room. She was so weak, but her mind was sharp as ever. She handed me this letter and made me promise not to open it until Dad remarried." "What's in it?" I traced the sealed envelope with my finger. Evidence, account numbers, dates, names. Mom was an accountant before she got sick. She noticed discrepancies in Dad's books, started digging. What she found? I shook my head. "Let's just say my father's perfect reputation is built on quicksand." "Show me," Anne said. "Why should I trust you?" She pulled out her phone, opened a recording app and played a conversation. I recognized my father's voice immediately. "Pierce, move the funds offshore before the audit. Use the usual channels and make sure Rosalind doesn't find out. She's not as understanding as Natasha was." My hands clenched into fists. He drove her to her grave with his lies, and now he's doing the same to Rosalind. "That's why I'm here," Anne said. "Rosalind's like a sister to me. I won't let him destroy her like he destroyed your mother." The bartender approached, and we fell silent until he passed. "There's more," I said quietly. "Mom mentioned something about another woman, someone from before she met Dad, but she was too weak to explain further. I might be able to help with that." Anne pulled out a folded newspaper clipping from her purse. "Found this while doing some research. It's from 25 years ago. The yellowed paper showed a younger version of my father with a woman I didn't recognize, both smiling at some charity event. The caption read, 'Local businessman Kenneth and partner Maria celebrate successful fundraiser.'" Maria, my throat went dry. He never mentioned her. Keep reading. The article mentioned Maria's sudden departure from the charity board due to personal reasons. The timing aligned perfectly with when my parents first met. "Your mother knew about her," Anne said. "It's all in her financial records. Regular payments to an offshore account, starting right before Maria disappeared." My phone buzzed. A text from Yesenia. "Your father's looking for you. Be careful, mi amor. He's furious." "We need to move," I said, standing. "Dad's coming." Anne grabbed her purse. "Meet me tomorrow at the public library, noon. I have more to show you." As we hurried toward the back exit, I heard my father's voice booming through the main entrance. We slipped out just as he entered the bar. In the parking lot, Anne caught my arm. "Deborah, wait. There's something else you should know. The payments to Maria's account. They didn't stop when she left. They continued for years right up until your mother got sick." My mind raced. Why would he keep paying her unless there was something or someone he needed to keep quiet about? Anne finished. I thought about the letter in my clutch, still unopened. Mom knew she must have included it in here. "Don't open it yet," Anne warned. "We need to gather more evidence first. Your father has powerful friends. One wrong move, and he'll bury everything deeper than we can dig." In the distance, I heard my father calling my name. "Tomorrow, noon," I confirmed, then hurried to my car. As I drove home through the rain-slicked streets, Mom's voice echoed in my memory. "Sometimes the truth hurts, me he, but lies destroy everything they touch." I touched the letter resting in my passenger seat. "I'm getting close, Mom, I promise." My phone lit up with another text, this time from an unknown number. "I know what happened to Maria. Meet me at the old lighthouse tomorrow night. Come alone." The pieces were starting to fall into place, but something told me this was bigger than just financial fraud. My father's empire was built on secrets, and somewhere in those secrets was a truth that even my mother might not have known. As I pulled into my driveway, I made a decision. Tomorrow, I would open the letter. But first, I needed to visit the lighthouse because something told me that whoever knew about Maria might just be the key to bringing my father's whole world crashing down. And this time, he wouldn't be able to buy his way out of the truth. The old lighthouse stood like a sentinel against the darkening sky. My forensics training screamed that this was a terrible idea, meeting an unknown contact, alone at night. But I'd come prepared, my hand resting on the pepper spray in my pocket. A figure emerged from the shadows. "I wasn't sure you'd come." I spun around, heart racing to find a woman in her early 40s. She had kind eyes, and wore a maintenance worker's uniform, with Sarah embroidered on the pocket. "You know about Maria?" I kept my distance, studying her body language for signs of deception. "I should. I cleaned her house for 15 years. Sarah's voice carried a weight of secrets. "Your father paid me well to keep quiet, but," she glanced around nervously, "some things shouldn't stay buried. Tell me everything." "Not here." She gestured toward the lighthouse keeper's cottage. Inside, the cottage was small but well maintained. Sarah locked the door behind us and drew the curtains. "I'm the lighthouse keeper now," she explained. "Have been for 10 years. It's quiet, isolated, perfect for keeping secrets." "What secrets?" She pulled out an old photo album. "Maria wasn't just your father's business partner. She was pregnant when she disappeared." My knees went weak. I sank into a chair as Sarah opened the album. The first photo showed Maria, clearly pregnant, standing in front of a Christmas tree. When was this taken? December 1992, 3 months before you were born. The implications hit me like a physical blow. Are you saying Maria had a daughter? Sarah turned the page to reveal a baby girl with dark curls. Your half-sister Sabrina. My phone buzzed and texting about our library meeting. I ignored it, too focused on the photos before me. Where is she now? My voice shook. Living in Seattle. She's a doctor. Sarah pulled out a business card. She knows everything Deborah has known for years, but your father's lawyers made it clear. Stay quiet, or lose everything. Does my mother's letter mention her? Sarah's eyes widened. Natasha left you a letter. Haven't opened it yet. I was waiting till a car door slammed outside. Sarah rushed to the window. Pierce's car. How did he the text? I realized. He must have traced my phone. Sarah grabbed the photo album and shoved it into my hands. Back door, through the garden. There's a path to the beach. Go. I clutched the album and ran. Behind me, I heard Pierce's voice. Sarah, we need to talk. The path was treacherous in the dark, but fear made me sure-footed. I reached my car, parked a block away, and drove straight to Anne's house. She opened the door in her pajamas. Deborah, what's wrong? I have a sister. I thrust the album at her. Anne Pierce is trying to stop me from finding her. Anne's living room became our war room. We spread the photos across her coffee table, along with Mom's still unopened letter and the evidence Anne had gathered. Look at this. Anne pointed to a photo's timestamp. March 15, 1993. The day you were born. Maria was still pregnant. That's impossible unless the realization hit me. Twins, separated at birth. One given to Maria, one to your mother. Anne's voice was gentle. Your father made a choice. My phone rang. Yesenia. Mi amor, your father knows you met someone at the lighthouse. He's furious. Says you're destroying the family. He destroyed it first, I replied. Tell him karma's coming. After hanging up, I finally reached for Mom's letter. It's time. Anne squeezed my hand as I broke the seal. 6 pages of my mother's careful handwriting spilled out along with a USB drive. The first lines made my heart stop. My dearest Deborah, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and your father has remarried. There's something you need to know about the day you were born. Wait. Anne grabbed her laptop. Let's check the drive first. The USB contained hundreds of files, financial records, emails, legal documents, but one folder caught my eye. Sabrina. Inside was a video file dated 2 months before Mom died. I clicked play. Mom's face filled the screen, gaunt but determined. Sabrina, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry. I've known about you for years but stayed silent to protect both you and Deborah. Your father threatened to ruin your career if I ever told. But you deserve the truth. You both do. Tears streamed down my face as Anne hugged me. We need to find her, I said. Already on it. Anne typed rapidly on her laptop. Dr. Sabrina Martinez, Seattle General Hospital. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Pierce. Whatever you think you know, you don't. Back off now or things will get ugly. I showed Anne the message. She smiled grimly. Too late for threats. Time to make things ugly ourselves. I looked at Mom's photo on the screen, then at the business card Sarah had given me. Book us 2 tickets to Seattle. It's time for a family reunion. Pierce and my father had no idea what was coming, but they were about to find out that karma had backup, and she was bringing receipts. Seattle's rain felt different from home, colder, more persistent. Anne and I huddled under an umbrella outside Seattle General Hospital, watching doctors and nurses hurry past. There, Anne nodded toward a woman in a white coat, exiting the building. Dark curls, olive skin. She could have been my reflection in a slightly older mirror. Sabrina. I whispered. She walked straight toward the parking garage, keys jingling in her hand. Before I could lose my nerve, I stepped into her path. Dr. Martinez. She stopped, eyes narrowing as she took in my face. Recognition flickered across her features, followed by something darker. You're Kenneth's daughter. I'm your sister. The keys slipped from her hand, clattering on the wet pavement. Anne retrieved them as Sabrina stared at me, her composure cracking. How did you? She glanced around nervously. Not here. Follow me. We trailed her to a nearby coffee shop. The tension at our small corner table was thick enough to cut with a knife. I assume you found Mom's letter. Sabrina's hands wrapped around her untouched coffee. You knew about it. Natasha contacted me 6 months before she died. We met in secret. She pulled out her phone, showed me a photo of her and Mom in a hospital garden. She wanted to make things right, but Kenneth's lawyers threatened your career. I finished. Mom mentioned it in her video. Video? Sabrina leaned forward. What video? Annie pulled out her laptop, played Mom's message. Sabrina's hands trembled as she watched. I never knew she recorded this. Tears spilled down her cheeks. All these years I thought she'd chosen to give me away. Dad chose, I said. He split us up, paid Maria to disappear with you, and now he's about to pay for it, Anne added, opening another file on her laptop. Look what we found in Natasha's records. The spreadsheet detailed years of payments, not just to Maria, but to judges, regulators, even hospital administrators. A systematic web of bribes and blackmail. Pierce helped set it all up, Sabrina said. He was there the day I was born, handled all the paperwork, made sure there was no official record of twins. My phone buzzed. A text from Yesenia. Pierce is in Seattle, he's looking for you. We need to move fast, Anne said. These records prove everything, but we need more, something recent. Sabrina's expression hardened. I can help with that. Pierce has been paying me 2 monthly deposits to keep quiet. I've kept every receipt, every email. Why didn't you expose them yourself? I asked. Because of Maria, my other mother. Kenneth threatened to cut off her medical care if I talked. She has MS, needs constant treatment. That's why you became a doctor, I realized. She nodded. To take care of her myself, but now, she pulled out her own USB drive. I've been gathering evidence for years. Bank statements, recorded conversations, everything. Anne's laptop chimed. An email alert. She went pale. Pierce just transferred $5 million offshore. They're moving money out of the country. They know we're here, I said. Dad must have people watching the hospital. Let them watch. Sabrina's voice was steel. I'm done hiding. A man in a dark suit entered the coffee shop, scanning the room. Pierce's security. Back door, Sabrina whispered. My car is in the alley. We slipped out just as more suits arrived. Sabrina drove us to a small house on the outskirts of the city. Maria's place, she explained, unlocking the door. She's at a treatment center this week. We'll be safe here. Inside, Sabrina led us to a home office filled with filing cabinets. Everything's here, every payment, every threat, every lie. Enough to destroy them? Anne asked. Enough to put them in prison. My phone rang. Dad's number. I put it on speaker. Where are you? His voice was deadly calm. With my sister. Silence, Ben. Don't do this, Deborah. You'll regret it. Like you regret abandoning Sabrina, or threatening Maria, or driving Mom to her grave. I gave you everything. He exploded. A perfect life, built on lies. Sabrina cut in. Hello, Father. I heard him inhale sharply. Sabrina, be reasonable. Think about your mother. I am, both of them. She met my eyes. It's over, Kenneth. The truth comes out tomorrow. You'll destroy everything, he warned, including yourselves. No, I said. Just you. I hung up as headlights swept across the windows. Pierce's car. The files, Anne said urgently. We need to get them out. Sabrina smiled grimly, handed her a key. Already done. Everything's in a safety deposit box at First National under Mom's maiden name. As Pierce's men approached the house, we slipped out through the basement, emerging 2 blocks away where Yesenia waited in her car. Ready? She asked. I looked at Sabrina, saw my own determination mirrored in her face. Tomorrow we'd release everything to the media. Tonight, we'd prepare for war. Ready, we said together. Because some truths refuse to stay buried, and some sisters refuse to be separated again. The restaurant was Dad's choice. An upscale Italian place where he'd always conducted his most important business. Tonight, he'd requested a family dinner to sort things out. Sabrina and I knew better. He'll try to buy us off, Sabrina whispered as we walked in. That's his solution to everything. Dad stood as we approached, Rosalind beside him looking uncomfortable. Pierce lurked at a nearby table pretending to be having a separate dinner. My daughters, Dad said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear, arms spread wide. Please sit, both of them now. Rosalind's voice shook. Kenneth, what's going on? Not here, dear. He shot her a warning look. A waiter appeared with wine. Dad raised his glass. To family reunions. Neither Sabrina nor I touched our glasses. Is still sulking? He sighed. Fine. Let's talk business. He pulled out a checkbook. Name your price. You think you can buy our silence? Sabrina's voice was ice. Like you bought Maria's? Rosalind's head snapped up. Who's Maria? Nobody. Dad said quickly. Ancient history. I'm nobody? Sabrina pulled out her phone, showed Rosalind the old photos. I'm his daughter, his firstborn. Well, technically, we both were. Rosalind's face went white. Twins, Kenneth, you told me Deborah was your only child. He tells a lot of lies, I said, sliding Mom's letter across the table. Read it. Dad's hand shot out to grab the letter. But Sabrina was faster. She handed it directly to Rosalind, who began reading with trembling hands. Don't, Dad warned. Rosalind, put that down. Why? Her voice rose. What are you afraid I'll find out? Pierce stood moving toward our table, but Anne appeared from nowhere sliding into the seat next to Rosalind. Keep reading, she encouraged. The best part's on page 4. Dad's face turned purple. This is family business. Family? I laughed. You separated twins at birth, paid off doctors, judges, and God knows who else. Threatened a sick woman's medical care to keep your daughter quiet. That's not family, that's organized crime. Everything I did was for this family. No, Sabrina said quietly. Everything you did was for yourself. Rosalind reached page 4. She gasped, hands flying to her mouth. The offshore accounts, the bribes, Kenneth, these numbers. It's all lies, Dad insisted. The SEC doesn't think so, Anne said, checking her phone. They just opened an official investigation. Funny timing. Pierce rushed to our table. Kenneth, we need to leave now. Nobody's leaving, said a new voice. We turned to see Yesenia with 2 FBI agents. Except maybe you, Pierce. Dad stood so quickly his chair crashed backward. You can't prove anything. Actually, Sabrina pulled out a recorder. We can prove everything, including the conversation we just had about trying to buy our silence. You recorded me. His face contorted. Your own father. You stopped being my father the day you gave me away. Rosalind stood, tears streaming down her face. I want an annulment. Sit down, Dad roared, grabbing her arm. The FBI agents moved forward, but Rosalind yanked free herself. Don't touch me. I trusted you. I defended you when Deborah tried to warn me, but she was right about everything. Mrs. Bowen, one agent said, we'll need your statement as well. Dad looked around wildly, seeing his carefully constructed world crumbling. Pierce, do something. But Pierce was already backing away. Sorry, Kenneth. Every man for himself. The agents moved in. Kenneth Bowen, you're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and witness tampering. As they led him away, he turned to us one last time. I gave you everything. No, I said, taking Sabrina's hand. Mom gave us everything. The strength to fight back, the courage to face the truth, and now, each other. Rosalind hugged us both, whispering apologies. Anne and Yesenia joined us as the restaurant cleared out. Maria's waiting at my place, Sabrina said. She wants to meet you, Deborah. Really meet you this time. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Dad's arrest was already hitting the headlines. His empire was falling. His reputation in tatters. What happens now? Rosalind asked quietly. Now, I said, we build something new, something honest. Together, Sabrina added, we left the restaurant as a group. Not the family Dad had tried to create through lies and manipulation. But something stronger. Something real. Outside, the night air felt cleaner somehow. Mom's letter had started all this, but her real gift wasn't the evidence it contained. It was the truth it forced into the light, and the sisters it brought together. Karma hadn't just come for Dad, she'd come bearing gifts, justice, reunion, and a chance to start over. As we drove to meet Maria, I thought about Mom's final words again. Promise me you'll make things right. Looking at Sabrina in the rearview mirror, I smiled. Promise kept, Mom. Promise kept. Maria's hands shook as she poured tea in Sabrina's living room. Despite her illness, she moved with a grace that reminded me of Mom. You look just like her, Maria said softly. Natasha, I mean. She was so beautiful. Did you know? I asked, accepting the cup. We met once, shortly after you were born. Maria sat carefully in her wheelchair. She came to my house, furious, demanding answers, but when she saw me holding Sabrina, she smiled at the memory. Something changed. She understood I was as much a victim as she was. Sabrina squeezed her mother's shoulder. Tell her about the letters. I set down my tea. Maria wheeled over to a wooden chest, pulled out a bundle tied with faded ribbon. Your mother and I corresponded in secret for years. Kenneth never knew. The letters spanned 2 decades, Mom and Maria sharing stories, photos, watching their daughters grow up from afar, 2 mothers united by lies, protecting their children the only way they could. This one, Maria handed me a yellowed envelope. Came just before she got sick. I read aloud, My dearest Maria, the doctors say I don't have much time. Kenneth thinks he's won, that his secrets will die with me. But we know better. Our girls are stronger than his lies. When the time comes, they'll find each other, and when they do, keep reading, Sabrina urged. When they do, give them the key. It's time they knew everything. Maria pulled a small key from her necklace. This opens a storage unit in downtown Seattle. Everything's there. Every document, every photo, every piece of evidence your mother and I collected over 20 years. But the FBI already has. This is different, Sabrina interrupted. This is personal. Family history. Things Dad doesn't even know exist. A knock at the door made us jump. Anne peeked in. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. She handed me her tablet. On screen, Pierce was giving a press conference outside the police station. Kenneth acted alone. He was saying, I had no knowledge of his illegal activities. In fact, I was the one who first alerted authorities. Liar, Maria's voice cracked. He was there the day you were born. He arranged everything. We can prove it, I said, with Mom's evidence and yours. There's more. Anne looked grim. Your father made bail and he's calling an emergency board meeting tomorrow. Sabrina stood. He's going to try to hide the money. Transfer everything before the courts can freeze it. Not if we stop him. I turned to Maria. Where's this storage unit? An hour later, we stood in front of a wall of boxes, each one meticulously labeled, dated, organized. Mom's accounting skills merged with Maria's attention to detail. Look at this, Anne called out. She'd found a laptop, ancient but preserved. It's got all the original files, the ones Pierce deleted from the company's servers. And this, Sabrina held up a manila envelope. Recordings of Pierce and Dad planning the cover-up. From 1993, my phone rang. Rosalind. Deborah Pierce just called an emergency meeting of his own. Something about restructuring the company before the scandal hits. When? Tonight. Some warehouse by the pier. He's gathering all the board members who are still loyal to your father. I looked at the evidence surrounding us, then at my sister. Want to crash a party? Sabrina's smile was pure mischief. I'll drive. We loaded the most damaging evidence into her car. Anne coordinated with the FBI while Rosalind texted us the warehouse address. Be careful, Maria warned. Kenneth is dangerous when cornered. So are we, Sabrina and I said in unison. The warehouse was lit up. Expensive cars parked outside. Through the windows we could see Pierce addressing a room full of suits. Ready? Sabrina asked, clutching Mom's laptop. I held up Maria's key. Born ready. We walked in just as Pierce was saying. And with this new arrangements the company's assets will be fully protected. Protected from what, Pierce? My voice cut through the room. The truth? The board members turned, murmuring as they saw us. Sabrina held up the laptop. Maybe we should play them the highlights reel. Starting with March 15, 1993, Pierce's face went ashen. Security, they're busy, Anne called from the doorway. Talking to the FBI agents outside, the room erupted in chaos. Board members rushed for the exits. Pierce tried to delete files from his phone. And through it all, Sabrina and I stood firm. It's over, I said. For you and Dad both, you don't understand what you're doing, Pierce pleaded. The company will survive, Sabrina cut in. Under new leadership, honest leadership, as FBI agents enter the warehouse, I thought about Mom and Maria, two women who never gave up, who kept gathering evidence year after year, protecting their daughters, and waiting for the right moment. That moment had finally come. And as Pierce was led away in handcuffs, I realized this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice, truth, and the family we chose to be. The family we were always meant to be. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters. When Dad arrived for his arraignment, he walked with his usual confidence, but his designer suit couldn't hide the defeat in his eyes. Ready? Sabrina squeezed my hand as we watched from across the street. Before I could answer, a familiar voice called out, "Girls, wait." We turned to see Maria being helped out of a taxi by Yesenia and Anne. Despite her wheelchair, she radiated strength. I need to face him too, she said. Together, we crossed the street. The reporters surged forward, cameras flashing. Kenneth. Maria's voice carried across the crowd. Dad froze mid-step. Maria? His composure cracked. You can't be here. Can't? She wheeled forward. Like I couldn't keep my baby. Like I couldn't tell the truth. Those days are over, Kenneth. The reporters went wild, shouting questions. Dad's lawyer tried to hustle him inside, but he stood rooted, staring at his past. Come back to haunt him. Miss Bowen. A reporter thrust a microphone at me. Is it true you discovered you had a twin sister? Actually, I said clearly, I discovered I had a family, a real one. Not the lie my father built. Mr. Bowen, did you really separate twins at birth? Dad finally snapped. Everything I did was for them, to give them better lives. Better? Sabrina stepped forward. You threatened my mother's medical care, made me live in fear. How is that better? You don't understand. No, you don't understand. I cut in. Mom knew everything. She and Maria both did. They protected us, gathered evidence, waited for the right moment. Natasha. His face went pale. She wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Maria pulled out a folder. Keep records? Track your crimes? She was an accountant, Kenneth. Numbers don't lie. The courthouse doors opened. Pierce emerged in handcuffs, escorted by FBI agents. He saw us and tried to turn back, but it was too late. Pierce, Dad called out. Tell them we did it for the company. Pierce shook his head. Sorry, Kenneth. I've made a deal. Full cooperation for a reduced sentence. Traitor. Dad lunged at him. Security guards rushed forward. The only traitor, Sabrina said loudly, is the man who betrayed his own family. As the guards restrained Dad, Maria wheeled closer. Remember what you said to me 28 years ago? That money solves everything. Well, look around, Kenneth. Look what your money bought you. The reporters pressed closer, cameras rolling as Dad was led inside. But we weren't done. Not yet. Inside the courthouse, just before the arraignment began, Rosalind approached the defense table. She placed her wedding ring in front of Dad. The annulment papers are filed, she said quietly. I've given my statement to the FBI. Rosalind, please save it. She turned to us. I'm testifying for the prosecution. The judge entered and the proceedings began. As the charges were read, fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, witness tampering, I watched Dad's shoulders sink lower and lower. How do you plead? The judge asked. Dad looked back at us, his daughters, his ex-wife, the women he'd tried to silence. For the first time I saw real fear in his eyes. Guilty, he whispered. I plead guilty. The courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed for the doors, racing to break the story. But we stayed, watching as Dad was led away in handcuffs. Outside, Anne met us with news. The board has voted. They want you both to take over the company. Both of us? Sabrina asked. Joint CEOs. Anne confirmed. They think it's the perfect way to restore public trust. Maria beamed with pride. Your mothers would have loved this. Speaking of mothers, I pulled out Mom's letter, the one that started everything. There's one part we haven't read yet. The last page. Sabrina and Maria moved closer as I read aloud. My precious daughters, by now you found each other. You faced your father and exposed his lies. But remember, the greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's creation. Build something new, something true, something worthy of the strength it took to get here. I love you both. Always, Mom. Tears streamed down Sabrina's face. She loved me too, even though she loved you because, Maria said softly, just like I've always loved Deborah from afar. We hugged right there on the courthouse steps. Two daughters, two mothers' legacies, one truth finally set free. So, Anne said, wiping her own eyes. Ready to run a company? Sabrina and I looked at each other, seeing the same determination, the same fire that had driven our mothers. Ready, we said together. Because sometimes justice isn't just about punishment. Sometimes it's about reconstruction, about taking broken pieces and building something stronger, something true, something worthy of the women who never stopped fighting for us. The autumn wind whipped around us as Sabrina and I stood before Mom's grave. Maria's wheelchair between us, we'd brought fresh flowers and something else, the final documents from Dad's sentencing. 15 years, Sabrina said softly, placing the papers at the headstone. No chance of early release. Pierce got 8, I added. And they seized everything, all the hidden accounts, properties, everything. Maria touched the gravestone. She'd be proud of you both, not just for bringing them to justice, but for what you've built. The company's transformation had been our greatest achievement. We'd renamed it Phoenix Trust, symbolizing its rise from the ashes of corruption. Every unethical deal had been exposed. Every wronged party compensated. Did you tell her about the foundation? Maria asked. Sabrina smiled. The Natasha Maria Foundation for Medical Justice, I think she knows. We'd used the seized assets to create a foundation, providing medical care to families threatened into silence by corporate corruption. Maria was its first beneficiary, but not its last. My phone buzzed. A text from Rosalind. Board meeting in an hour. Big announcement. Ready? I asked Sabrina. Almost. She pulled out an old envelope. Found this in the storage unit yesterday. It's addressed to both of us. Another letter from Mom. One we hadn't seen before. My hands trembled as I opened it. My dearest twins, I read aloud. If you're reading this, you've not only found each other but found yourselves. Remember that true strength isn't in revenge, but in redemption. In taking what was broken and making it whole. A car door slammed nearby. We turned to see Yesenia hurrying toward us. Mi amor, she called out. They're here. A group of women emerged from a van. Former employees Dad had silenced. Families he'd threatened. People whose lives he'd nearly destroyed. They were all foundation beneficiaries now, and they'd come to help us with today's announcement. The press is waiting at Phoenix, Anne said, joining us. Everyone ready for the big reveal? At the office, reporters packed the conference room. Sabrina and I took our places at the podium. Maria and our extended family of survivors behind us. Phoenix Trust isn't just a company, I began. It's a promise. A promise to right the wrongs of the past. Which is why, Sabrina continued, we're announcing the Complete Transparency Initiative. Every document, every transaction, every decision will be publicly accessible. The room erupted with questions. We answered each one, holding nothing back. No more secrets, no more lies. After the press conference, we gathered in our shared office. Once Dad's sanctuary of deception, now a space of healing. The walls, once bare, now held photos. Mom, Maria, us as babies, and dozens of foundation recipients. Look what came from legal, Anne said, handing us a document. Your father signed over his remaining shares. The company is completely yours now, not just ours, I said, sharing a look with Sabrina, Maria, Rosalind. Could you join us? We'd had the papers drawn up weeks ago, sharing ownership with Maria, Rosalind, and our foundation beneficiaries. A true phoenix rising together. There's one more thing, Sabrina said. She opened our office safe and pulled out Mom's last letter, the part we didn't read at the grave. I continued where we'd left off. Making something whole, again, isn't about erasing the cracks. It's about filling them with gold, making them part of the story. Your father tried to split you apart, but in doing so, he gave you something precious. The chance to choose each other, to choose truth, to choose love. Maria wiped tears from her eyes. Both your mothers chose love too. Every day, every letter, every piece of evidence we gathered, it was all for love. A knock at the door, Yesenia, with a package. From the storage unit, the last box. Inside were photos we'd never seen. Mom and Maria together, both pregnant. They were smiling, hands on their bellies, already loving the daughters they'd have to separate. They knew, Sabrina whispered. They knew we'd find each other and rebuild everything, I added. The setting sun painted our office golden, highlighting the faces and the photos on our walls, a tapestry of truth, justice, and redemption. Not just our blood family, but the family we'd chosen. The family we'd built. To Mom and Maria. Sabrina raised her coffee cup. The real Phoenix founders. To truth, Anne added. To justice, Rosalind said. To family, Maria finished. I looked around at these incredible women, my sister, our mothers, our chosen family, and felt Mom's words echo in my heart. The cracks in our story weren't flaws to be hidden. They were gold-filled seams that made us stronger, more beautiful, more true. We'd done more than expose lies or right wrongs. We'd created something our mothers had always dreamed of. A place where truth wasn't just spoken, but lived. Where justice wasn't just served, but shared. Where family wasn't just born, it was chosen again and again with every beat of our healing hearts.